How's it going, everyone? My name is Major Williams. I'm the host of the Majorvation podcast, and today I have a very special guest that's doing amazing things, from being a high school standout to being a collegiate star to going over and playing overseas professionally to now giving back in the community as a local coach at Marietta Valley High School, doing amazing things. So it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. Coach Brian Wethers, welcome to the Majorvation podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Major Williams. I'm a big fan of your work. I was honored to be on the podcast. So thank you for taking some time this morning and let me join the show.
No, absolutely. It's my honor, man. And I just want to dive in. I know we had a conversation, a few weeks ago, and I just kind of
Mhm.
want to, your story was so compelling. And I think a lot of people can get inspired and get some motivation behind just your resilience and just kind of like where
Mhm.
you were and also
Mhm.
map it out to where you are right now. And so
Yeah.
having a successful playing career, what are some of the craziest things you've experienced on the court or even
Mhm.
off the court as far as playing overseas that a lot of players don't know about in those
Oh
areas?
man. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that goes down overseas. I would say just I remember being in Ukraine and a teammate of mine. We were out hanging out, and there was I think he was a disagreement over a girlfriend. So he was trying to talk to a girl at a nightclub or at a bar, and it was some of the locals took offense to that. So I'm minding my own business. I'm kind of a peaceful person, right? And all of a sudden I hear, B, come over here, right? So lo and behold, he's kind of getting into a scuffle, and then someone kind of whistles to me to come over. And long story short, it was kind of like a mafia guy that basically told me like, you need to calm your friend down. You guys are not from around here, right? So I went in to get him, and I remember just kind of thinking like, hey man, you're not at home. You got to be, head on a swivel, know your surroundings. On the court, I can remember one time being in China, and we were playing for a playoff spot. And we were playing against a military team, and over there they do like a point system. So you're supposed to, you know, they could have only lost, I think, by like 7 points, and they would have been okay to go to the playoffs. So we were well over, beating them by 15 points or so. And I want to say it was winding down to a minute, and then the scoreboard just kind of shut off, right? And then all of a sudden, scoreboard comes back on. They got a little bit more time left. The score gap is a little different, and I remember just thinking again, like certain things are out of your control, right? But all in all, I had a great time. Meeting the people in different countries and interacting with just the different cultures, the type of food they eat, the music they listen to. You realize there's a lot of differences, but we all basically want the same thing. We want a
Yeah.
good life. We want to, um, have a family, raise a family, make sure we make enough money to live. We jokingly laugh about a lot of the same things. So it was cool to kind of embrace each culture in that aspect. But it's nothing like home.
I can only imagine. I was talking to someone a few weeks ago, and we were just talking about the importance of discipline
Hmm.
and also mindset when it comes to correlating to being a professional.
Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through that journey in regards to, was there a learning curve for you, or did you take some of the attributes from what you
Hmm.
experienced as a collegiate player into
Hmm.
your professional career as well? Like, how did that translate?
Well, in college you learn, you know, habits, right? You learn, you're waking up, you're regimented, you're going to hit your weights, you're doing your book work. But there's always a coach pushing you, I think once you become a professional and you start to kind of get close to that, it's a very self-motivated exercise. You have to be the one to get your work in. No one's kind of telling you, hey, make sure you get your shots up, or you ain't gonna get a contract. It's just you'll show up and be out of shape and get your butt kicked, and you'll know why, right? So it's one of those things where you have to have a desire and a passion in the process of the game. Everybody wants the accolades of it. Everybody wants the scholarship or the pro or the contract and all those things. But the grind it takes, to wake up, push through the soreness, tell your friends, no, I'm not hanging out. I gotta go and, get my shots or get my weights in. And just being in love with that is the separation factor that a lot of kids don't understand. It's
Yeah.
it's one thing to kind of get in and do the work, but if you're not really mentally locked into it and really embracing what you're doing and connecting with it, like, mind, body, and soul, then it just becomes, fitness or cardio. It's not developing, that passion. So that's a lot of when I see my players now, I try to remind them of that. If I'm telling them, hey, we're going to go do this move 10 times, or I send them to a court to work on something, and I watch them casually go through the motions. I stop them, and I'm going, look, you can waste your time. You'll probably get in shape. Your muscles get a little bigger, but you are not improving, in the area we're designating improvement right now. So I need you to mentally connect with that, or I don't want you looking at me going, "Well, how come I'm not playing?" I'm going to point to the kid that's been doing it, right, and that I trust to go into the game. But you have to enjoy that. You got to ask questions. I was fortunate to have some good coaching along the way. I know one of the mentors. His name was Dr. Joseph Carr out of DC. He was kind of like our sports doctor. He really kind of helped unlock my mind in college in terms of just the simple thinking of like questions you ask yourself. I want to go play in the NBA. Well, how many shots you shooting a day? I'm only shooting, 200, 250. Well, that's crazy because Kobe shoots, 1,000. So, good luck with that, right? It's like, so then it makes you think of like, all right, well, it's time to level up. So having those kind of inspirations in my life and then having the desire of wanting to achieve it, going, all right, it's been put there to me. Somebody's giving me a map. If you don't do it, then you have nobody to blame.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's a great explanation. I know you've seen plenty of movies, but I'm sure you're familiar with White Man Can't Jump, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
So,
Classic. Yeah.
so we've all seen that movie. Have you had one of those instances, whether it was in high school,
Mhm.
college, or even professionally, where you kind of looked over someone just based upon how they showed up to the court or how they looked, and they end up giving buckets on you? Have you ever had one of those moments?
You know, yeah, I could say that I could and I wouldn't even say I could look him over, but we played, I guess, in high school. I'll give a story like Gilbert Arenas, two players I say that I showed up that was like, man, they really got the bet on me that day. One was Casey Jacobson in high school. We played a playoff game and he scored like 55. He just went off, run the whole offense for him. I was running through screens I'd never seen before. They were just, put on a display. So he definitely, made me a better defender on that day. And then second one I would say was Gilbert Arenas. We had gone to a lot of high school camps and stuff together, and grew up around the same age. And he kind of like there was a separation stage where he went through around his senior year, where he just really started taking it serious. He was still kind of the way he is today, where he's real like funny and goofy. But I remember him saying, "Go, hey man, when I get a scholarship, I'm gonna really, take off with this. I'm gonna really go hard." And lo and behold, he did. We were playing in the All Star game. It was Dominguez Hills, and and he just put on a show. And I remember he put a
Wow.
couple moves on me, and I was going, yeah, he's on his way.
I think we've all been there once or
Yeah.
twice, especially if you're playing. Um, I was going through some old photos,
Mhm.
and I was looking at number 25. What is the significance of number 25? And was that your number throughout your playing career, whether high school, college, professionally? What
Yeah.
is there a backstory for 25?
Yes, there was. It was I, wanted to be a Laker my entire life. Okay? And I envisioned myself getting my jersey retired, on that wall with the greats, with Magic and everything. And at the time, there was no 25. So, Michael Jordan was 23, right? And I wasn't going to do that. So I was like, 25 was going to be my number and I was going to make it, famous, right? So, and then I think they retired Gail Goodrich's number shortly after that, 25. I was like, ah, you know, but it was a number that I just felt like, at the time, no one had made that. Magic was 32, Mike was 23. Guys that had Isaiah number 11. So that was something I felt like I wanted to take and be known for. So I took it pretty far.
Nice. No, no, you did a great job, man. People don't understand how much work it takes and how much of a honor and privilege it is to play any professional
Yeah,
basketball, right?
yeah,
So when you are a collegiate player or growing up,
mhm,
and we all kind of look at the TV screen sometimes or players that we watch. Who do you feel like those two or three players that you kind of molded yourself after? For me, it was Isaiah Thomas. It
mhm,
was it was it was Dennis Rodman, and of course Jordan, right? So I had
yeah,
I had those
yeah,
type of people early on, in
yeah,
my mind on what gave me kind of like that mentality. And this is a two-part question. So who are those two or three players, and did they give you that drive and that, that mentality to help you become who you are? Because I seen intensity in your face
Mhm.
on the court. I was like, yeah, he looked
Mhm.
like he was in beast mode right there. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, the guys I want to credit four. The one who introduced me in the game and why I fell in love with it was Magic Johnson.
yeah,
Being a Laker guy, but as I matured as a player, I shifted more up to Michael Jordan because of the things he was doing on the floor. The amount of space he was able to get, his methodicalness with his footwork, just his intensity on both sides of the floor. And then that bled right over to kind of Kobe Bryant. And then in between there, I say between Michael and Kobe was Akeem Olajuwon. And I
yeah.
think when Michael left the league, and I was kind of like, well, I don't know if I want to watch. I fell in love with Akeem Olajuwon, and just that those 2 years where they won the championship was 94, 95, and he was just amazing. His footwork around the paint, and those things between those three players, Mike, Kobe, and Akeem, I wanted that footwork. So
Yeah,
that was something I tried to translate into my game. And then the intensity in which, I looked at all the documentaries, watched the videos, so you get to kind of understand their mind frame and the no excuse mentality. Just the willingness and the fire to compete. That's kind of what I wanted to be. I wanted to be somebody that showed up for my teammates. They knew that, he's going to work. He's going to guard their best player. He'll give you anywhere from 15 to 25 to 30 points, just depending on the night.
yeah,
You just wanted to be that guy. So, I prided myself on the work, showing up for my teammates, being somebody they can look over and know, like, if I speak up, then it's because I did it. I'm winning in sprints, I'm doing all these things.
yeah.
So, yeah, those were big influences in my life.
Yeah, no, those are some great influences right there
Right. Yeah.
to model your game, and also your mindset, the
Yeah.
work ethic, and the discipline, and also their success. It was inspiring to a lot of us.
Yeah.
So when you were at California, can you kind of walk us through your experience there?
Mhm.
I didn't look at, were you there 3 years, four
I was
years?
there 4 years. I was there four
Okay,
years.
so you
So I
had a
get there.
4 year experience
Mhm.
at Cal. Kind of walk us through your experience there. How was that? How was that that bonding period with the coach and
Mhm.
also with the team at that time? And how do you feel like that prepared you to
Mhm.
move on into the pro life?
Yeah. Well, college was, shoot, there was a lot of ups and downs, but ultimately a great time. I had a good time there. I came in as a freshman, I was a top, 25 recruit. Had a slow start, was getting used to just the physicality and all that. So it didn't have the blowout year that I wanted my freshman year, but that forced me to get back, into the weight room. I remember going that summer and there was a talk of like, do I want to transfer? And I was like, no, I need to prove to myself like it's not me, it's over there, and I had to, so I got into the weight room and really I put on about 15 pounds of muscle. Was in the gym every day, 6 hours, just like working. So I came back and my coaches were like, what have you been doing, right? So it just reminded me of like, or it set the mentality of you're in control of your destination, right? And then I started to have, success. So, the bonding period between, you have so many coaches. You have your guard coach, the head coach, you have your strength coach. So there's bonding with all that. I had a really good relationship with the strength coach, my assistant coaches, and our head coach. But there was always, I guess a fighting for more. I wanted to
Yeah,
have more. We always played in a system where about 10 guys played, and I feel like I made the most of my career. And I still have a lot of good relationships. But I think in hindsight, when you really understand like your game and how you play, I think the style of play probably was a little different than I probably should have gone into. But nonetheless, I learned a lot about the game, about how to fight through adversity, about myself, what I was willing to do, to make things work, and what things bothered me, what I needed to grow on, all those things. So I was
yeah,
definitely prepared, to go on and be a man, be independent, travel. And I think it was being at Cal for 4 years definitely prepares you to go travel for about 9 to 10 years, because you have such a melting pot of diversity within that area. It was kind of venturing out, and I was very prepared, I feel, just for the environment at Cal.
yeah. No, that's amazing. I was going to ask you, is there something that you didn't master while you were playing? Because for me, it's
Mhm.
going right and pulling up.
Yeah.
I used to watch
You
Kobe.
know,
He go left and right and pull
yeah.
up.
My open court handle wasn't as good as I should have had it. Going full court. In the half court, I'll chop you up. But like running the fast break, breaking all that down, I feel like I could have been a more efficient there in transition. But aside from that, I feel like I did. I was able to go left, go right. I could shoot both ways. I was able to finish around the rim both. Became a much better 3-point shooter when I was a pro. I was really mid range, attack the rim, play defense in college, and then started to really expand once I became professional. But yeah, I would say that I would have adopted some more of a Kyrie to my game. If I could do it all over
Hey,
again, I would have done that
all
early.
of us will take that.
Oh, right now in a minute, right? In a minute,
So just
you know.
so going from the mindset, because you hear this conversation a lot when you're on certain podcasts with athletes, former athletes, retired athletes. For
Hmm.
you, what was that moment beyond an injury where you said, you know what, it's time to transition. Let me figure
Hmm.
out what I'm going to do. Because what a lot of
Hmm.
people don't know is that the average years that a professional player plays is between
Yeah,
6 to 8 years
yeah,
max,
yeah,
right? So it's not as long of a career as a lot of people think, and it can
yeah.
be tough. It can be difficult making that transition psychologically for a lot of
Yeah.
people. What was that? What was that moment for you like? And
Hmm.
did you have help helping you get to that particular place?
Well, to rewind a little bit, it was, I'd say, injuries along the way. But the first one being in college, I was set. I was doing pro training, and I was going working out with the Warriors, worked out with the Lakers, had set up to go with Seattle or the Supersonics at the time, and Sacramento Kings. I had a few workouts lined up. In the Warriors workout, right at the end, I had tore my Achilles, so we were doing a drill like right at the back end of it, and one on one went to swipe, get a defensive steal, and then popped it, right? And I had a little bit of issues with it in college. So by the time I thought I had it wrapped up, but it just kind of went out on me on that workout. So from there, devastated, thinking I have a chance. And at that time, I don't think I was a first round pick. I'd have had a, second round, maybe getting to somebody's training camp, but I had a good opportunity. So the feedback I was getting was good. So I was devastated there, but I healed. And it wasn't until I think it was 2, 3 days later after that, and I'm just emotionally going through it because I feel like I've worked to get to this point, and then boom, it's just kind of taken from you. I lost my grandmother, who was very important to me, and it just kind of put life in perspective of, you know, things I'll be able to do versus things I'll never be able to do again. And I can heal and stop all this, whining and pouting to myself, and just kind of get back on the horse and see what you can do. Maximize everything you can to get back what you can and see what you can do. And, I was able to get myself back to pretty much, 100%. Um, I went over after that to Australia, and I was an MVP there, led that league in scoring, and then started to get, kind of a buzz. It was a few spots before that. Just I went to Germany and China along the way to kind of get going. And then when I had a full season, I was very unsuccessful. So from there, I went into Europe. I played in France. I was in Ukraine a little bit. Went back over to Australia, played New Zealand team. But right around there, and then I had another like knee injury on my tibia. So right around about 29, um, it just started to take a toll. I knew I couldn't do the things I wanted to do all the time, and it was just kind of achy. The training wasn't, it was just becoming a lot. So I realized, that and just being out of the country all the time, missing family events, it started to take a toll of like it's time to, I wasn't making the large contracts, you know what I mean, as I was making earlier. So I knew it was time to go home and settle in and get a, and work, join the real world, and the game is now stopped. And I need to start thinking about what I want to do, past this.
Yeah.
So
No, no, that's great because a lot of times people struggle, and
yeah,
it takes so many other people on the outside looking in, to like, you know what, hey, we might have to try
it's
to
time.
figure something else out.
Yeah.
So the transition to where we are now, impacting young people's lives,
Hmm.
as a coach, how has that helped you? Although you're in a position to help a lot of young people with your
Hmm.
experience and the
Hmm.
wisdom that you not only have, but the wisdom that others have bestowed upon you on your journey.
Hmm.
How has it helped you thus far?
You know, I would say just the reward and giving back in the teaching aspect of, wanting to understanding that you got one opportunity at this. You know, these kids go through this, and you know, a lot of them are young, but you realize how fast it really goes and how much time can't be wasted. So just kind of being able to give them the tools to maximize their opportunity to accomplish the goal they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
So that, and it also keeps me in the game. You know, I'm able to now sit back. You know, my physically I can't do it at the level I want to do it anymore. But now I'm sitting back, and it's mental chess. You know, being able to like, oh, how good can I get these 12 guys on my team? How, well can I get them to play together? How much, stronger can I make them, mentally, and all these things. So it's the challenge of that, beating the top team. So it's just a whole nother level of like competition for me, but it's also like getting this group to understand their maximum capabilities.
Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that there's a certain psychological approach to coaching, but there's
Hmm.
more attributes, a part of it that has nothing to do with the kids. And let's talk about
Yeah.
this. How
Hmm.
many sideline coach parents
Yeah.
have you dealt
Oh
with in the
man.
past? And can that be
Yeah.
one of those annoying things? And and how do you
Well,
handle those things? Being a player, like you kind of
yeah.
understand the roadmap versus the
Yeah.
parent probably never played, no disrespect, but
Yeah.
how does that work with you? How do you manage that?
It's frustrating in the sense because parents have and can, ruin a season for you. Just not understanding, and like kind of like what I said, they understand that time is short. So half of the battle is the parent is trying to push and do everything they can for their kid to maximize their time, and you get it. But it's to a detriment sometimes because it's, with my resume, sometimes you would think I'm going, I got this end of it. I see these players every day. I want to win. That's why I'm here. If your son is not in a position to help us at that moment, he's not going to play. So I've tried to just set rules, set expectations, have conversations. One of my rules is first is, look, if I will have a conversation with your child all day long, that's actually where it will start. So before we have this parent intervention, me and your son should have had some talks about, where he feels he's being slighted, or, what he can do to get better. And I'm very honest, and I give these kids a roadmap of what they can do or why they are where they are. And, from there, I'll have conversations with parents and let them know, same kind of deal. But I try to keep a certain level of distance from what we're doing as a team, from what I allow the parents to interact in. But I also invite them to do some things because we all are part of it, the same journey. We all want the same thing. We all want to win. We all want the best for their kids. But there is always some, I guess, some disagreements on, how we get there and who's supposed to play and takes the
Right.
shot and all that. So I just have to hold firm, be honest. We don't talk right after games, those type of things, and just kind of set those boundaries. And hopefully they follow them. But
Right.
this last year I had a lot of success with my team because I involved them a lot more in the process. They were able to, we voted on who starts, what constitutes a starter, what constitutes a sub, when the person should be subbed, who are the players that are going to come off the bench, all those things. So by the time we had a meeting, and it lasted, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, but by the time we left, we had an identity of what we wanted to do, how we were going to do it, um, who was going to be the catalyst in leading that. And from there, I saw a change in how they approached it.
Mm.
They were, fully invested in it. They knew they had a part in it. They had a say in it. They kind of dictated, who was out there. And we just approached each game like that. I gave them assignments. We would go into film. They would know, the other team's plays. They know their, specific matchups. They would go home and talk about it and bring it, the information back to the table for the whole team. So it was this point of like everybody had a job and responsibility, and they knew if they didn't do it, that we couldn't be as strong.
Right.
So it kind of held, it forced that accountability, and I had probably my best season, in coaching last year.
Yeah, I think the approach that you share with me that you just spoke about is
Mm.
so genius because, in this day and age, you have to find those different ways to adjust and connect as a
Yeah,
communicator, as a coach, as a parent.
yeah,
Like we always got to figure out those ways to grow and evolve. You can't do everything like we used to 10
yeah.
years or 20 years ago. And sometimes people get stuck in their ego or their pride and
Hmm.
just try to drill it down. And so I say that to say, as far as coaching styles, you have the Phil Jacksons, You
Yeah.
have the Greg Popoviches. For you, mindset wise, as you had influences as a player,
Hmm.
who do you feel like you've taken influence from as a coach that kind of,
Hmm.
created your style of coaching?
Man, I've had probably every style you can think of, from the, the Bobby Knight type to the, to a Phil Jackson. So I've been on kind of like both spectrums. I
Right.
remember when I first started coaching, I was more not quite Bobby Knight, but like very fiery, you know what I mean, and intense, and and then you're coaching the game with the same intensity that you played with,
Mm,
and that was can't do that, right? Because you can't think straight. You can't think on the fly. You're looking around, making sure everyone's doing their job, which you have to do. But then the older I got, the more I coach, you realize all that is done in practice. Like, what is your practice planning? By the time you get the game, you should be able to sit back and monitor scenarios, situations, matchups, defenses, those type of things. So I feel like I've become more Phil, definitely this last year. When guys would do certain things, you go miss a layup or they miss a rotation, you're like, oh, come on, right? And this year was just no emotion. It's just, all right, next play. You're looking for like how to fix it, how to make it good, not necessarily harping on the the past, right? You can't fix
right.
these things, so let's just move forward on it. And I needed to ease their minds to know that, hey, we're going to make a mistake. Just don't follow it up by making another mistake by getting back on defense lazy or doing something to you know hurt the team, right? You're
Right.
gonna you're gonna make a mistake. Okay, just make it up. So once they understood that, I think they were free to play, and I think that for me just allowed me to sit back and really focus on, the strategy of it, watching, all the little things I need to look at, how they're responding to things we run, the coach's emotions, the player, all those things,
Right.
rather than trying to coach each player's movement and how hard they work and what they're doing. I have to trust that they're going to do that because we've already put in the work. So we got to the point where that was already taken care of. I knew they were in it to win it. We were going to work. And now it's just about how do I lead them and make sure that they have all the tools they need for me, to win this game and execute properly.
Yeah. So when it comes to the victory, right?
Mm,
You want to know, right?
mhm,
Beginning of the season,
mhm.
is it like a championship? How do you guys celebrate, and how do you create that culture?
Yeah.
Is it even kill? If it's like, guys, a good game, let's get to the next one. Like, how does that work
Yeah.
with you?
No, I'm very much a player with them in that aspect. Like, we're going to celebrate a win. That's what we came out to do. That's what we worked for. But we're going to celebrate it until, the next morning when it's over. Right. So we get in the locker room, I'm praising them, I'm lifting them up, and we're talking about, the game plan and how we followed it. And, it's got to feel good to put in that work and be, feel validated and just, praise them for what they're doing, but also remind them that this feeling can go away tomorrow, and if we want to sustain it, we want to continue to feel it, then we need to get right back on the horse tomorrow morning. When we do our film, when we get to work, and that's it, right? And we approached it that way. So, if it was a Friday, hey, go enjoy the weekend. We just beat a rival. Hey, you're supposed to be a kid, but understand, how this feeling feels as a result of the work we put in, and we got to continue to do that next time we show up to practice. So they did that. They did that.
So I got a humorous approach. So who wins in horse? Does coach
Hmm.
win, or or does the player that wants to call you out win? Who wins?
Oh, coach wins all things basketball right now. Okay. We went in the one-on-ones, we went in the shooting drills. Now, I've got a couple kids that can really shoot it. So it does definitely keeps me on my toes, but
Right,
I'm still in shape enough. I don't think they can one-on-one, not yet. It's
right,
funny
right.
because my nephew's a junior now, and he's getting, he's improving, he's physically getting stronger. So now he's trying to feel himself. And,
Yeah.
we went the other day, so we were getting to shooting, and I was like, all right, let's play some one-on-one. And then now he understands the difference in professional versus or a high school, but they're getting there. I know my terror or my time of reign will end soon. I'm 43 years old. I'm keeping in shape, so I'm trying to do it until 50, but eventually it's just going to be too much.
Right. I told my son, he's 14. I said, man, you probably have to wait till I'm like 60.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's gonna be a while, man, because
Yeah.
I'm still sharp. But
Yeah.
it's fun because I remember certain mentors and certain coaches. I'm 17, 18, of course, feeling
Yeah.
myself. And they would just give me that nonchalant look, like, man, this is a whole different man strength over here.
Yeah.
Like, this is just a
Yeah.
whole other technique to it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And literally, it was just like, just busting me up, and it's just the knowing how to use your body, how to
Yes.
create that space, and just
Yeah.
that's that small nudge of strength
Yeah.
that they quite don't have yet or either
Yeah.
understand,
And
which
it's the
is
mindset. Yeah.
and also that mindset, man. So I appreciate you coming on today, man, and just kind of
Yeah.
sharing your story. I think a lot of people are gonna gain a lot of value from it.
Thank you.
From a perspective, when you're speaking to your kids,
Mhm.
what is that? Is there a go-to motivational speech, or is it just at the moment, coming off the head, just speaking to the actual moment? How does that work with you to inspire your kids to go out there and conquer?
I'm very much like in the moment type of coach of where we're at. I try to feel the pulse of my group. It could be off a loss, you know, it could be leading into a tough game, or trying to motivate them when we just played a bad team and they think they're better than they are, you know. So you try to read where they are and give them nuggets to keep them where you want to go.
Yeah,
Right. I need to keep you hungry. I need to keep you motivated. One thing I did the last 2 years is we practice once we get going in our preseason. I gave them every Wednesday was off completely. So they knew, and that was like their late start for school. So that's the day they get to sleep in. But that was kind of like their mental reset, you know, each week where they could just, you know, relax, be a kid. And then I felt towards the end of the year, I didn't have like the mental breakdown fatigue that I had been having, right? You know, because you're pushing them, you got them in the gym, you want them to work, but and we do that, but I also give them a whole day. You know, Wednesday's your day. You know, you're gonna relax. You know, if the gym is open, if they want to come get some extra shots, but for the most part, I want you to relax mentally, physically, and come back ready. So that was helpful as well.
nice. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So I want to ask you, what is your favorite basketball movie?
Oh man, you know, you might have called it. It's probably between, you know, White Man Can't Jump, and then I would say Above the Rim.
Oh, yeah. So I was gonna say above the rim and blue chips.
Oh, Blue Chips
Blue
is another
chips.
good one. Yeah, there's some classics. You know, Coach Carter's right there, but I
Yes.
think White Man Can't Jump and Above the Rim came out right at a time where, you know, that was when I was on the playground a lot,
Yeah.
and that kind of spoke to me.
No, that was on fire. I
Yeah.
tend to ask a lot of my guests that, and it was funny because I asked one guest, "What film do you feel like resonates with you? Like as far as your story, is there something that motivates you and inspires you, or do you see yourself in certain characters?"
Hmm.
And she said that she relates to the Grinch. Now, mind you, when you first hear that, you're like, "What do you mean?" But when you look at the storyline of the Grinch,
Hmm.
he was a really good kid. He enjoyed
Yeah.
Christmas. It was just had a bad
Yeah.
experience that put him in a dark place. And if you look at the story about the interaction, get back into community at the end of it, it was like
Yeah.
it was a great journey, but sometimes we
Yeah.
process it that way,
Yeah.
right? And so I
Yeah.
think it was very insightful. So I do want to close by asking you, is there a film out there that, if not inspires you, but kind of a character that you see yourself as on the journey to where you are right now?
You know, this is gonna make you laugh. Okay. But one of the dreams or movies that inspired me when I was young was The Last Dragon. Time back. Bruce Leroy's journey, okay, as a young man, just the level up, the challenging himself, you know, the whole peaceful aspect of it.
All the
It's
obstacles and
fun. All the
everything, right?
obstacles, as funny as it is, and as much as people probably gonna laugh, like this dude said The Last Dragon, but you know that was a young, inspiring film for me.
Yeah, well, I love
Yeah,
it, man. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining me on the Majorvation
thank you.
podcast. We definitely got to do it again, especially when you guys get, a couple games into the season to kind of check the temperature in regards to where you guys are.
Yes,
You will continue to have my support. I look forward to bringing my family and checking out the games and cheering you guys on as well. And
thank you.
anything that we can do to help promote and support you
Yeah,
guys on the journey as well, please let us know. But I do want to close with one thing. We have a few more minutes.
sure.
Um, and this and to take like a minute or two, the importance of family
Mm,
in regards to everything that we do
yeah.
in our profession or whatever. Even still, how important is family to you, and how does that push you towards everything that you're doing now?
Well, it's, why I do what I do, you know. I think in finding a passion and that, I have a beautiful wife, 2 kids, my daughter's 12, my son's 10, and, that they're watching. And I come from a good, nuclear family. My parents were there. I had, 2 brothers, and just watching how they worked, how they loved each other, and how much that meant for, just my brothers and I growing up. You want to reciprocate that, you want to give back. Um, it's nothing like knowing you're dependent on and that, they look at you a certain way. You come home tired, they still want your attention, they want your love, they want you to play. So that's what wakes you up, makes you want to do things that you don't really feel like doing, all the time.
Yeah.
And they're, the amazing support source. You come home and you just had it handed to you at work or on the court, or you just lost, and they're just there. They're there to pick you up, build you up. They love you no matter what. And I think that's important, to just be a figure for that for a young person. I think it just helps societies when you're raising kids that are, come from homes like that and that are mentally stable and come from love and can make decisions. So I think it's important to do that, to raise people into the world that are, and that's what our world should be. So there's a flip side to that, right? Where, not being around, and then, the streets end up raising your child, and, we end up with some of the things we see going on today. So me and my wife feel a certain obligation to do our part because that's what it was done to us. And I feel like any society that's going to be worth living in, you should be building it up by, first starting with your home.
I think that's absolutely amazing. I was kind of want to close on
Mm,
that. I think universally that's a message that everyone needs to hear, and also it may be right on time because we get busy at times and
yeah,
we miss those moments and opportunities. And my kids, especially my middle son, he's a huge hugger, and
yeah,
he wants like 1,000 hugs a day, right? And
yeah,
it's and as a parent, we got our minds are all over the place. It was like, you just gave me a hug.
yeah, yeah,
And I had
yeah.
to train myself to stop saying that. So literally when he wants a hug, I stop whatever I'm doing and I
Just
give him
bring
a
it. Yeah,
hug. And
yeah,
so in the midst of everything that you go through this season, always remember metaphorically,
yeah,
receive those hugs, my brother.
yeah. Amen, man. Appreciate that.
All right. So thank you so much for joining the Majorvation show. I look forward to
Yes.
having you back on. Have an amazing week. Have an amazing season. And let's do it again.
We'll do it, man. Thank you. I appreciate the time again. Like I said, it was an honor. Big fan of your work, and keep doing what you're doing in our community.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.